So the question is Yellow Hybrid still viable in some way with the recent hit to Sunrise Buster, losing out on a massive, basically power boost to the deck, since it's been kind of limping along since the loss of Jet Sylphie. Gaining Maid Mode was great, allowing Sunrise Booster or Buster to be used as a boost for the deck tremendously, but now with Sunrise gone, or at least limited to one, is the deck still capable? Can it still limp along, or do we need to change it up? Is there other colors besides red that we can tech into the deck to possibly still make it playable? I've got a few things for us to look at today. A little bit different version of a deck profile. I've covered Yellow Hybrid a ton in the past, so I've got a few different builds, and we're just kind of take a step back and then look at them all and kind of see where the future of this deck is going, if it's going anywhere. Also, our new winter-themed memory markers are coming out now. We got Koromon throwing a snowball, super cute. We're going to have a big Christmas lineup of memory markers for the, really for the winter season in general. So definitely check the link in the description below for our Etsy page. These are handmade out of clay by my wife, hand-painted as well. Very, very cute memory markers. Absolutely love these things. You can also find some of our Battle Ready ink merch there on our Etsy page as well if you're interested. All right, so right now I've got pulled up just a spitballing idea of a red build moving forward after the Sunrise goes to 1. I think Maid Mode is still worth it just because of Holy Flame. I think Holy Flame is still a powerhouse of a card. If this gets hit in security, it basically turns your opponent's turn off. For a lot of these meta decks, a lot of the meta decks currently out there are these just one chip damage for a whole bunch in one turn, Metal X, right? We expect Metal Garurumon X to do really well moving forward. A lot of its competition has been removed. So you hit a Holy Flame, and that just shuts down their entire rest of the turn. They don't have security attack +1, so that Holy Flame absolutely ruins their day for sure. So if you can stack a Holy Flame in there with a Maid Mode, that's great. Or if you can just recover one. So in this version of the build, I do have the Shakuamons in here still for that recovery. If you can recover one in there, use the Zoes or the TKs to pull out something and recover more in to help make up for all that pulling out of the yellows. I think Holy Flame is still very, very good. If you drop Maid Mode, though, out of the deck, I don't think Holy Flame is worth it. Because hard playing Holy Flame from hand typically almost never comes up. It's not that great. Thankfully, it is only a 2 play cost. I mean, there has been times where I'm like, oh yeah, I'll Holy Flame, especially if they go into a cross 5, right? So it's got that reboot blocker, so it's just kind of in my way. I might Holy Flame it. It's got security attack +1. If they have a tie on field, it's checking 3 security. So Holy Flame against a cross 5 still isn't that bad. And with cross 4 going to 1, and if people are still going to be playing Shoutmon, they're definitely going to be maxing out on cross 5. So Holy Flame against that is still pretty good. So I'm feeling really good about that. A lot of the other stuff in here is just our pretty standard stuff. I think the Solar Mons have been an absolutely wonderful tech, just because, I mean, of course, the to go against Shoutmon in general, it's been a pretty popular thing to tech in, but also Death X. Death X is being teched into every deck ever right now because it's just a super popular card. So turning off Death X, it's Solar Mon's been pretty awesome for that. So I did cut my Gilmon package down by 1 and a few other things, just rearranging the list a little bit here to put in 2 Solar Mons just for whatever, if I'm in that matchup where I need that Solar Mon, I like to have a good chance of drawing into it. So at a 2 of, feels pretty solid there. Everything else here is the pretty standard stuff. Maid Mode is great. Venusmon is absolutely wonderful. If you've seen this thing in action yet, it is pretty bonkers. The 1 Sunrise, we're absolutely going to still run this. If I'm going to run the Maid Mode, of course I'm going to run Sunrise and Holy Flame. So I maxed out on the Holy Flames because that is a good secondary target. Of course, I've got the Sunrise. I've only have 2 Maid Mode. I've only ever had 2 Maid Mode in this deck, so I've only ever been able to stack something typically 1 time in a game. So if that 1 time I'm stacking, if I can guarantee it's the Sunrise, hold on to that Sunrise as long as possible and make it count and not just shotgun it out, just because we have 4 of them in the deck, actually conserve it, kind of like Ice Wall. You can't just play Ice Wall anymore, just one after the other. You got to make it count. Ice Wall still a great card. Sunrise Buster going to fit into that same exact category. If I can use it with the maid mode, great. If I can't, it's still a fantastic card. And then I've got all the Holy Flames. If I have to use the Sunrise Buster at some other point, I can still typically use a Holy Flame with the maid mode and throw it into my security, which is still a fantastic combination there. So I'm still feeling okay about the deck. And then to make up for the Sunrise Buster, I did go ahead and throw in just a couple Gaia Force, because sometimes you just need to nuke something, right? Half the time you play a Sunrise is literally just to kill a big threat on the board. And if I can just hard play a Gaia Force, you know, fine, so be it. We'll play a Gaia Force and call it a day there. Still feeling really good about the Gaia Force. It's still a solid card. I'm just running it as a 2 of there. I've got the Fireball for more draw power or to deal with rookies. You know, whatever kind of rookie shenanigans they might have that I need to just clear off the field. Crimson Blaze is still an amazing card. If you've seen this in action, it's another one that people sometimes wonder if should be limited. Just because when it does pop off, it is absolutely busted. Clearing a whole field for 2 or less memory is pretty bananas. And then everything else is kind of standard here, our typical Tamer lineup and stuff. I do like the Karis just because we do a lot of recovery in this version of the build with the Shakuamon. Now, a way that we can transition a little bit away from this recovery style build, if you want to, say, drop the Shakuamons and run the Rise package, I kind of recommend maybe going away from the maid mode as well. So if you want to run the Rise Greymon package here to you know, play out your Tamer here, you get the security attack +1, which is really aggressive. I like it. And then you can run the Rise Greymon X if you want as well. So you can play out another Tamer, so it keeps your Tamer count up. A little less great because, you know, no more Sunrise, but it's still okay. This also is like a mini Sunrise Buster if you want to look at it like that, -2k for every yellow and red Tamer you have in play. So it's 2k instead of 3k. So this is like a mini Sunrise. So you're going to get the play out the Tamer when you Evo and nuke something. So Rise Greymon, very much like a mini. I mean, literally, it's look at the picture there. Does that look familiar? Yeah, it's literally right here. So it makes sense that's how Sunrise works, because it's basically the same as Rise Greymon X. And then for our Megas here, I'm a big fan of Seraphimon. I've always been a big fan of Seraphimon. Just the guaranteed recovery, right? If I go into this guy turn 2, turn 3, I can, you know, get my recovery. I'm at 6 or higher. You know, if I go into like Shakuamon, I'm at 6, and I go into Seraphi, now I'm at 7. You know, it feels really good. Even if I'm at 5, I can go into Seraphi and put myself at 6 on turn 2, turn 3. And pretty good stuff here. And then I get my security attack +1 and can swing in there, especially if you're going to combine it with the Rise Greymon here. So you're swinging for 3 security checks. If you've got the Tyankari here, you're more likely to survive. In EX2, I did this a whole lot. I swung with Seraphi and used my Tyankaris to keep it alive. Absolutely wonderful setup. And I think with the way the format is shifting, especially with it being so heavily into these like speedy level 5 and lower decks, you know, we've got the Shoutmon decks, the Metal Garurumon X decks, you know, all these really fast decks that are out there. A 12,000 essentially Seraphimon here clears all of that. So a 12k Seraphimon, because you're going to lower everything in security by 2, essentially making your Seraphi a 12k. He's clearing a lot. He's very aggressive. Now, some people do prefer the Kazuchi instead, just because it is that emergency, oh crap button, hit this, I'm about to lose, boom, pull myself all the way back up to 3 security, which is great. He's just not all that great for those early game aggressiveness, I guess, because you don't get the recovery also. But it is cool that you know, he adjusts his Evo cost there, so you can still get that security attack +1, and he's just naturally a 12k, so you don't necessarily even need the Tyankari in play to get good value out of him. So, you know, there's definitely argument there for this package. If you don't want to go Shakuamon in maid mode and go for the super high recovery route, switch over to this more aggressive build here, and, you know, change things up here. You can drop the Holy Flames and add in something like a Trident Revolver if you want, you know, pop 6,000 DP or less, and then play out a Tamer, which is pretty good. You know, you can just change up the build a little bit. I would only run the Holy Flame if you're going to run the maid mode. If you're not running the maid mode, you might not want to run the Holy Flame, because it's a little like less chance of it being in security. It's just a little bit wonky. So just food for thought there. So this is probably my preferred deck moving forward in my preferred build, right? I still want to use the maid mode. I really, really want to use the maid mode. I love that card so much. I think it's really great. So this is like my main build. I think there is definitely some argument for this build as an alternative, though. It's really good. Now, some other stuff I was looking at, though, which I thought was really kind of neat here, was a blue base, right? So if we run the Demi Vmon here with the jamming draw one, you combine that with the Vmon here, this is almost, it's like a pseudo of the Gilmon, right? Where we're getting the Evo draw, swing, draw 2. Well, with Vmon here, your Evo draw, swing, draw 1, but then you got jamming instead, so he's more likely to survive the security check. And at that point, your opponent has to choose, do I let that Vmon stick around for another turn for another draw and another security check, or do I deal with it? Gilmon was always kind of that same thing. If the Gilmon survived, which was always fabulous when it did, do they let the Gilmon just sit there for another turn to get 2 more draws and another security check? The Vmon is just more likely to survive, which is really great. I've always loved this as a package. If you don't use rookies at all and the color doesn't matter of what your rookies are, Demi Vmon and a jamming Vmon are absolutely wonderful additions to any deck because of that. Kind of the same reason Gilmon and Gigimon as well are really great additions. But then I was like, well, how about I just work in the Toby here, right? Because there isn't a blue that lowers himself if there's a yellow in play, which is a little unfortunate. But I was like, well, if I just run the Toby here, it's a 3-play cost all the time. I don't need the yellow in play, or a 1-cost Evo. If I swing with the jamming Vmon, it survives. I can Evo for 1 on top of him, and then Evo for 2 with one of my yellow hybrids, and that's going to bring my Shakuamon DNA online, which is one of those that it's a little bit more tricky to pull off. You don't really see it hardly ever, but you get that recovery. Then when DNA Digivolving, return one of your opponent's Digimon whose level is less than or equal to the number of cards in your security stack to its owner's hands. So you can basically bounce anything 6 or level 6 or lower back to the hand, which is great. We don't really see non-levels right now. D Reaper is basically kind of just gone away. No one really looks at that deck anymore. It's too slow for this format. This format is way too fast for that. So being able to bounce levels is actually pretty great with the Shakuamon. And then you'll notice since we dropped the red package, I don't have like Sunrise Buster in here or anything like that. So the need for maid mode has really gone down because there just isn't anything good, right? If you're not running the red package and using Sunrise Buster, maid mode really starts to lose a lot of value. I mean, we looked at this builder here, right? If you drop Sunrise and you like, what else is there? Like, as far as like reds are concerned, there's nothing else. Same kind of goes for blue here. You don't really have any good like yellow blues. I don't know if there's any yellow blue options actually, but there's just nothing good to choose from, right? So you could still run the Holy Flames if you want with the maid mode. I don't know if that's quite necessary. But you could just run 4 Venus instead. And you could still rock the Holy Flames. You do still a good amount of recovery here with the Shakuamons. So that's pretty nice as well as cycling with your Tamers here. But we also have access to Ice Wall, which is pretty awesome. I do love me some Ice Wall here. So having that, I originally debated, should I add in because we notice we still have 4 cards left in this deck that we can put in. I literally could not decide because do we run in like Kakaitis or something like that? I think we need some sort of big removal because this deck doesn't really have any kind of like solid, like big threat level removal stuff. And blue's always kind of suffered. It has Kakaitis, which isn't always the best. Like if I bounce a Death X to hand, that is not something I want to do. I need a way to remove Death X off the field. And that's one of the reasons I decided, like, that's what's holding this deck back, is the fact that I don't have a good big threat remover that I can work in for blue. If blue had something a little bit better, a little bit more reliable for like actually outing like big threats like Death X and things like that, I might actually look at this build a little bit closer. If you've got any good ideas for some removal that we could run in this spot, I'm definitely interested to see what you've got for the blue aspect of here. I just feel like it's almost there. We just need the right blue option. Man, if we had a 5 play cost or less yellow blue option that was some sort of removal. I don't care what it is. If it was some sort of removal, I would definitely be more inclined. We could also run the Wyvern's Breath. You know, it's always a solid pick as well. It's a yellow. It's only 15k or less, and I'm wondering if Grandis might see more play now, as well as we know. What's his name? GX is going to see more play, right? Jesmon GX is doing phenomenal, and he gets super beastly on his DP with all of his sister mons buffing him and things like that. So Wyvern's Breath just doesn't feel like it's enough, sadly. And then the last build, taking it back to BT7 here, going with the purple yellow here. So we got Psychmon, which will stop those reduced play cost, right? That's really great. As well as we can work in the Gazimon to stop that memory gain, which is you know, a big thing for blue decks. If we expect to see a lot of Metal Garurumon X, having that Gazimon could be really impactful for those matchups. So just something you can play around with your ratios for your rookies here. Pretty other standard lineup here. We are going a little bit leaning into the recovery aspect here. Again, with the Shakuamons, I don't think the Rise package is really great for the purple build. The purple build is also a rather slow one, similar to, you know, like most of these other builds that I've got are all kind of slow. You can make the red one aggressive though, which is nice. But for a lot of this other stuff, I think maybe something a little bit slower. So going with the recovery here with the Shakuamons, as well as the Ophanimon fall down mode for our secondary mega. I don't think, again, there's no reason to really play the maid mode unless you just want to use it for the Holy Flames, because that's literally the only thing you can add. That's kind of really limited for deck building ideas. Venusmon, you could run 4 Venusmon if you want, but I really like the Ophanimon, especially because we have good targets here. With also having this rookie lineup being purple, when she gets deleted, you can bring one of them back. So it's more than just your level 4 targets. So you actually have some more options to choose from. So I really like the Ophanimon back into the deck here. The Holy Flames, I love Schwartz here, is one of my favorite mass field removal cards. For every hybrid or tamer you haven't played, delete one of your opponent's level 5 or lower. That's huge. That absolutely guts those Shoutmon decks. They get really wide fields, and then you just clear everything. The cross 4, the cross 5, whatever it is, they're all level 5 and lower. This is a great one. I like this one better than Crimson Blaze, ultimately, just because I can pop level 5s, and Crimson Blaze pretty much never touches level 5s. And also, sometimes the... against the Garurumon X decks, they get those DP buffs, the all turns 1k DP buff, and that'll put their Weregarurumons up to 7, and then their Weregarurumon X's up to, 8, and completely dodges. I mean, it dodges Crimson Blaze, it dodges Flame Hell Scythe. It's super frustrating, but what it doesn't dodge is this guy right here. This one still takes them out because it's just level 5 or lower. That's all it cares about. It doesn't care about what their DP's at or their play cost or anything like that. Level 5 or lower, pop them. So really love this one for some big field removal. And Chaos Aggregation is a great card here. It dodges a lot of those cards that can't be deleted, right? Any sort of decoy, you know, it just turns off all of that. Shoutmon or Jesmon GX has, you know, the decoy from the sister mons, and then, you know, this completely dodges that. This completely dodges so much. Even Shoutmon, they're not getting deleted, so they don't get their material saved for being deleted because Chaos Degradation puts it into security. So, you know, pretty great card here. I really like it for a big removal card for the deck, because it does dodge that deletion mechanic, which Shoutmon really likes to do. As well as, you know, any sort of decoy mechanic in general. So really cool removal card. I'm a big fan of it. And then again, same tamer lineup. I'm pretty comfortable with this tamer lineup. The only time I would change it is, again, going back to if we were to run the Rise package and go for a more aggressive build, and we're dropping the Shakuamons and the maid modes, right? Of course, I would definitely drop the Karis here. Probably run the TK and Kari duo tamer, because you're going to do less recovery in that deck, like almost entirely. What we have the one Jet Sylphie. We're not doing a whole lot of recovery with the Rise package. It's way more aggressive, so the chances of you being lower security than your opponent is actually pretty high in that one. So I would definitely drop the Karis in favor of the TK and Karis if you're going to run the Rise Rise package. That's just kind of my thoughts of where I'm proceeding ahead with it. Like I said, this isn't a normal deck profile, just my thoughts moving ahead. I love Yellow Hybrid. I want it to still work, but dang, is it in an awkward spot at this point. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens.